So as we were walking through the exhibit about the Native Americans, it really stood out to us that their unique culture played a role in their normal postures. Our first thesis statement was that the posture of individuals in the Native American culture is greatly different than the posture in our own culture due to their physical work demands, handmade crafting, and traditional dance rituals. Typically, the men were involved in very physical work demands. They needed to go out and hunt for animals, which could then be used as food and other materials. In this first picture, you can see that the individual is riding a horse, which is going to affect his sitting posture. Some examples of this are increased flexion of the neck and trunk. His shoulders are slightly protracted. You can see that he is sitting in a slightly hunched over position, and obviously his hips are abducted to fit around the body of the horse. This is different than in our culture because we're not required to go out and hunt for our food on horseback. We can simply hop in our car and drive to the grocery store to get whatever it is we need. Our sitting posture in a car is obviously different from sitting on a horse because the seat is specifically designed to give support to the trunk and spine. The Native American culture is also well known for their handmade crafting, which leads to postural abnormalities as well. As you can see in the picture, the individual is sitting on the ground in a cross-legged position, typically for long periods of time. This again is going to lead to a hunched over back as well as excessive flexion of the neck and trunk. Typically in our society, our jobs or occupations require us to sit in positions for extended periods of time. However, we are usually sitting in a chair with back support and sometimes even arm supports as well. Oftentimes, these chairs are specifically designed to optimize postural alignment. Traditional ceremonies and dances are also a big part of this culture. As you can see in the pictures, the very small and thin shoes that they are wearing are not very supportive of the feet or arches. This could lead to excessive eversion of the feet, which in turn could lead to other problems further up the chain in the knees, hip, or spine. In our society, our shoes are often made of thicker materials because they are not necessarily handmade and are typically designed to provide support to the feet. Another thing to consider is that it's going to take a large amount of time for these shoes to be made. Therefore, these people are most likely wearing their shoes for longer periods of time, which can lead to excessive wear and tear on different aspects of the shoe itself.
Next, we looked at the environment and how it affects movement. Our second thesis is in the African culture, movement and gait patterns differ greatly from the gait patterns in our community due to their reliance on walking long distance, differing land terrains, and the absence of footwear. In the African culture, they depended on hunting and gathering to get their food. In order to get their food, they had to be used to walking long distances at times, especially when they had to carry their belongings with them. As you can see in the pictures, carrying supplies with them, such as weapons and shields, can deviate their gait after a while. If they carry an item in one arm, their gait will deviate to one side and cause an abnormal arm swing. To compare this to our society today, we do not rely on hunting and gathering, and we do not have to walk long distances to get our food. We have different types of transportation to get us there. The next topic about the environment that affects movement is the different land terrains. The African culture was surrounded by mountains, basins, grassland, desert, and rainforest. In the rainforest, people had to navigate around plants and trees, so they may have had to crouch down at times, causing a hunched over way of walking. The ground in the rainforest is also soft, making the ground unstable and harder to walk on. The desert contained hard, flat land. By walking on this type of terrain, the body has to absorb more energy at the joints, so they were not placing too much pressure on those joints, causing pain and other orthopedic issues. In comparison to our society, we had roads and sidewalks dedicated to providing a smooth surface for us to get around on. We do not have to worry much about balance because obstacles are not in our way. The African culture had to be more aware of their surroundings, and the most efficient route may not have been the safest one. The last topic on how the environment affects movement is the absence of footwear. With no footwear, the feet become more flat and everted, which can cause deviations in gait up the chain. The knees would be more valgus and the hip more internally rotated. In comparison to our society, we have shoes that are specifically designed to support the arches and support us while walking on different surfaces for different amounts of time.
In our everyday life, we're not as aware of how our culture may be affecting our posture or how our environment may be affecting our gait. But if we take a step back and look at what other cultures do in their daily lives, we can see the differences in posture and gait. In my opinion, I really enjoyed this experience to the museum because I've never been there before, so it was really interesting for me to look at the different exhibits and compare them to my own culture that I'm used to.
I have been to the museum before, but this time I looked at the exhibits from a different perspective of actually looking at the cultures and how it affects their daily lives. I also think we gained a better appreciation for our own culture by looking at other cultures and comparing them to ours.
As physical therapists, I think it's important for us to be aware that we are going to be working with a diverse population of individuals. Therefore, we need to be understanding that other cultures may differ from our own, and the approach that we take to treat these individuals may need to be altered from how we would normally treat someone of our own culture.
And each individual culture shares different traditions and values. Therefore, it's important for us to be conscious about respecting those differences.